This is a description of the Lord's form that Kapaladev actually is speaking to his mother Devahuti. Very beautiful, beautiful verses. The Sanskrit and the meaning, even though the section itself actually talks about the yogis' meditation on the form in their heart. But when I heard Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's recitation of these verses, it just touches your heart so much. And every time I would go take darshan of Radha Shyam Sundar, we weren't having them all the time on the altar at that time. It's only like during the Janmashtami for a week or 10 days. So I would just, recite these verses in front of them. And then it describes like each limb of the Lord. And it's just so beautiful, like reading this verse and then looking at them at that particular limb. And it's just such beautiful meditation and brings a deep connection, not only with the deity form, but with Krishna and his beauty and his, the whole personal form actually. So that's my inspiration. This is like an impromptu class, but I'm happy to connect to this verse and just spend a little time with Srimad Bhagavatam and Krishna. So if you're hearing now or hearing later, thank you for joining, and please bless us that we can connect to this verse and then deepen our connection a little more with our dear Radha Shyam Sundar. With that, we'll begin with the prayers. Om Ajnanatimmirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunadhanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhye Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udiraye Ashtaprayeshu Abhatreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you. We are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 28, Text 22. Ichaucha nishratit sarit pravarodakena Tirthena mudnadikritena shiva shivo bhut Dhyatu manah shamala shaila nishrishta vajram Dhyaye chiram bhagavatas charanaravindam Yachaucha nishratita sarit pravarodakena तीर्थेन मूर्ध्यधिकृतेन शिव शिवो भूत् ध्यातुः मनश्शमलशैलनिसृष्टवज्रम् ध्यायेत् चिरं भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम्. Whatever means. Yet the Lord's lotus feet, Shaucha, washing, Nishrishta, gone forth, Sarit Pravara of the Ganges, Udakena, by the water, Tirthena, holy, Murdhni, on his head, Adhikritena, born, Shiva, Lord Shiva, Shiva, auspicious, Abhut, became, Dhyatuhu, of the meditator, Manaha, in the mind, Shamala Shaila, in the mountain of sin, Nishrishta, hurled, Vajram, thunderbolt, Dhyayet, one should meditate, Chiram, for a long time, Bhagavata, of the Lord, Charana Aravindam, on the lotus feet. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. Purport. In this verse, the position of Lord Shiva is specifically mentioned. The impersonalist suggests that the absolute truth has no form and that one can therefore equally imagine the form of Vishnu or Lord Shiva or the goddess Durga or their son Ganesha. But actually, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Supreme Master of everyone. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela 5.142, it is said, Ekale Ishvara Krishna Arasabha Bhritya. The Supreme Lord is Krishna, and everyone else, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, not to mention other demigods, is a servant of Krishna. The same principle is described here. Lord Shiva is important because he is holding on his head the holy Ganges water, which has its origin in the foot wash of Lord Vishnu. In the Haribhakti Vilasa by Sanatana Goswami, it is said that anyone who puts the Supreme Lord and the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, on the same level at once becomes a Pashandi or atheist. We should never consider that the Supreme Lord Vishnu and the demigods are on an equal footing. So for this first line, the blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges. You know this story, how the Ganges was brought to earth from the heavenly realm by Bhagirath for his ancestors, but the power is so strong that no one could just be able to bear it. And then Lord Shiva said he will bear it on his head, and he actually ties in his shika and then let her flow with normal force. So that Lord Shiva here, Kapila Muni is describing, he is already auspicious. Shiva means auspicious. And he becomes even more auspicious by bearing this water of Ganges, which has actually washed the Lord's lotus feet. We always have this concept like Charanamrit, when we do the Abhishek, the water which actually touches the Lord's lotus feet. And when we take that, we say, actually the verse, it says, Sarva Vyadhi Nivaranam, like it can remove all kinds of contaminations and diseases and whatnot. That's the power of the Charanamrit. Because one thing is it's the Lord's lotus feet, and the other thing we hear from the descriptions of Bhagavatam, that all the devotees, all the pure devotees of the Lord actually stays at Lord's lotus feet. So that's why it becomes even more special and even more beautiful, that area around Lord's lotus feet. And the water which actually touches there, it touches the Lord's lotus feet, and it actually passed through all these wonderful devotee association. So that becomes so much more potent and so much more powerful, that we are hearing Lord Shiva, who is the topmost demigod, and we hear like he is the Amcha, but he is of his own accord. He is not like a conditioned soul. So that most powerful and the foremost devotee of Lord Shiva, he becomes more blessed just by having this water. It's a beautiful poetic ornament. Just if we see the Sanskrit, Tidhena mudnyadikritena Shiva Shivo Bhut. When he bears, he actually becomes more blessed or more auspicious. So that is something we can take it for us. Even though we are this teeny tiny people, last evening Gauranga Darshan Prabhu is speaking on this, the Lord's flute, apparently all holes and just some random bamboo and a wooden grinding mortar and a rope, which are seemingly like nothing. Even probably a kid can just pull the rope and just break it. But they were able to do this enormous task of bringing so many souls to the Lord, and also deliver Yamalachana. And then in the case of flute, they were bringing so many souls, that heart-moving experience of hearing Krishna's flute and beautiful music. So what we can take it is, when we take the instructions of Krishna in this verse, Pada Rajobhishekam, once we heard like, what does it literally mean? Like, do you just go around the pure devotees and Maharaj is walking like, you sweep off the floor the dust and just put it on your body and head and everything? And then Maharaj was describing, it's taking those instructions, following in their footsteps, like walking in that path that they have walked, and what they want us to do, not for their sake, but what can help us. So when we follow those instructions, that is actually bearing that lotus feet or the dust of lotus feet on our head. So as Lord Shiva became blessed and auspicious, even in our tiny condition, we can actually become auspicious and become a powerful instrument, like that flute or the grinding mortar or the rope. And as Arjuna got this fame and everything, and we do a service really wonderfully, devotees will be pleased and they actually appreciate so much. And in one sense, we are actually looking to be seen and to be appreciated, and to have all these qualities, because that's innate in our nature. And when we try to do that in material ways, it actually becomes like really not too nice. It actually becomes ugly. And unfortunately, we try to bring the same thing in devotional service also, and artificially or immaturely, we try to be up there and like show off and do whatever. It's not really going to bring the true joy and satisfaction. But instead, when we can genuinely try to follow the instructions and serve with that mode, that can actually bring all the auspiciousness, and along with that fame, appreciation, and to be seen, to be heard, to be everything. But yet, when we are deeply connected to Krishna's lotus feet and Krishna's instruction and his representatives in our lives, it just becomes so beautiful, the relationship between the devotees, and how that satisfaction and fulfillment of our presence and our service. So that's something really nice point. And of course, in the purport, Prabhupada brings this aspect of not seeing Krishna equal to Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma or any other demigods. He is establishing this Ekale Ishvara Krishna. Krishna is the only Supreme Lord, and everyone else is a servant. And the servant is just carries the instructions, just try to serve. And through that, the servant actually becomes glorious. Like that, all these demigods, Lord Shiva here, they become glorious because they serve the Lord so wonderfully. So that is about the first part, about Lord Shiva. And then the second one, probably, whatever is practically applicable for me right now and for most of us probably, Dhyatu Mana Shamala Shaila Nishrishta Vajram. Shamala Shaila is the mountain of sin. Like, we may say I'm sinful, I have this tendency, I have that tendency. Even though we may not do the grossest form of sins after taking up the process of Krishna consciousness, and we are at least conscious. But on the subtle level, all these tendencies that we have been carrying for who knows, for millions of lifetimes, it's not easy to just, when we start following the regulative principles, it may be easy, just like overnight we decide and we are inspired with some devotee's instruction that it's going to help you. And I say, okay, from tomorrow, I'm not going to drink tea, I'm going to give up meat, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So that can seem like, just instant. We take the vow, we determine, not the initiation vow, but even before that, try to follow the regulative principles. We make up our mind and determine, and we try to follow, even though the tendencies and temptations may come up, but at least on a grosser level, we say, hey, I have taken this vow, I just want to follow. But on these subtler forms of these tendencies, it's not that easy to instantly get rid of. Like, we have so many of those tendencies, and we can take pride or envy or things like that. We keep hearing all the time, it's not proper to, harbor those feelings either towards the devotees or towards anybody. It's not, very conducive. In fact, it's destructive for our bhakti. But in spite of that, it's not easy because it's just not so much in our own hands to do that. But this is a beautiful hope and assurance that we are seeing here. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. So I really like this. It's not saying whatever sin you have created and, the prarabdha karma, aprarabdha karma, it can destroy, which it does. And we hear the glories of the holy name, how powerful it is. And in the 6th canto, I think it says, it can destroy all the sinful reactions that you have committed in the past, that you are committing now, and that you would be committing in the future. How much more powerful it can be, right? Here, the thing that really attracted me was it actually shattered the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. So we hear the mind and the subtle body is actually a storehouse. Even though we change the body from one life to the other life, all these impressions, subtle impressions, whatever acts we are doing, it's all stored in the mind. And that actually being carried forward from one lifetime to the other lifetime. And it's just not easy. Just little, thing itself, we have to work so hard. And mountain of sin, no way. I mean, particularly I'm thinking with my kind of inattentive sadhana, or like whatever little service I do, but which is also full of so many, my own personal motivations and so-called so many things. So it's not that genuine. So I cannot really expect that, okay, I'm chanting the pure name and everything is going to be destroyed tomorrow. The holy name has the power, but we are not able to access that fully because we are approaching the holy name and Krishna through our own filters. When we remove those filters and genuinely open our hearts and receive the mercy of the holy name and Krishna, we can actually receive that power even when we do our own sadhana or our own services. So that is where, this help comes in. Meditating on this Lord's lotus feet can actually shatter the mountain of sin. And we can read the Prabhupada's purport now. Another significant point of this verse is that the mind of the conditioned soul, on account of its association with the material energy from time immemorial, I was going ahead of myself, contains heaps of dirt in the form of desires to lord it over material nature. This dirt is like a mountain, but a mountain can be shattered when it hit by a thunderbolt. Meditating on the lotus feet of the Lord acts like a thunderbolt on the mountain of dirt in the mind of the yogi. If a yogi wants to shatter the mountain of dirt in his mind, he should concentrate on the lotus feet of the Lord and not imagine something void or impersonal. Because the dirt has accumulated like a solid mountain, one must meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for quite a long time. For one who is accustomed to thinking of the lotus feet of the Lord constantly, however, it's a different matter. The devotees are so fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord that they do not think of anything else. Those who practice the yoga system must meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time after following the regulative principles and thereby controlling the senses. So here Prabhupada is bringing a beautiful point. Lord's lotus feet has the power to shatter this solid mountain like the sin and the dirt, all the dirt in the form of material desires accumulated. But if someone is just meditating on that without any active service, they have to do it for a long time in order to really able to fix up their focus and concentration on that. But for the devotees, Prabhupada is saying it's a different matter because naturally we are not just sitting there and not thinking of anything else and just thinking of Lord's lotus feet and meditating on them, but we are actively engaging all the senses. So, of course, in that process of doing service, we can actually do them, without putting our mind and heart, like, just engaging all the other senses and not the mind or the heart. But on the other hand, we could choose to do the same services mindfully and heartfelt way, like really putting our heart and mind and understanding the privilege of having a service. And from that mode, we can do the service. It can really bring about this transformation, and it can become so much more easier than meditation through the yoga. So that's what Prabhupada is expressing here. For the devotees, it's actually so much more easier because of the surrounding aspects of helping that meditation. But what we need to remember is most of us probably, while doing the services, we just caught up so much in the practicalities, and we may forget what we are doing and whom we are doing for, what's the purpose. Maharaj was talking about this why, the Sankalpa, during the last week and in the Festival of Holy Name. that why is so important. And we may have this why for those of us who have gone through this exercise or heard from Maharaj or any other devotee. Before starting a japa or starting any service, we can actually sit through and write our sankalpa and whatnot. But once we start the activity, then we may get lost in just the externalities, and we may forget about that the sankalpa part or the why. So it's actually specified. We actually revisit, write it somewhere where we can see, and then see that that intention, why we are doing this service, and what is the purpose, and whom we are doing that for, and that can bring about the consciousness again. So while we say the yoga or meditation on the lotus feet can take really a long time, and it may not be so palpable or so easier as bhakti, but on the other hand, if we don't approach bhakti in a proper way and not do our services mindfully and putting our heart, we may not be able to get the real benefit either. Even though it's higher, even though doing service to the devotees and Krishna definitely is much more potent and powerful, even though we may not have the pure intentions, Krishna and pure devotees, spiritual master, taking pity on us, they may say, okay, fine, this, whatever, this dasa or dasi serving so much, but unfortunately they have, so much of these tendencies, they're just not able to come out, and Krishna can just pour out his mercy to, help us move from that stuck space of, not really connecting to Krishna or to the devotees while serving. So that's very important. So what we can take from this verse is, though we don't need to engage in that meditation as a dhyana yogi, but we can take this aspect of meditation in our chanting, in our services, in whatever acts we are doing. As Prabhupada is saying, the devotees are so fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord that they do not think of anything else. So Prabhupada is talking about this very high stage where, they don't have any other thing to think of, the pure devotees. Anything that they do, it's actually for serving the lotus feet of Krishna. So for most of us who may not be at that stage, we can cultivate this kind of a thinking and meditation consciously while we are taking care of things, and then gradually we could reach up to this stage where anything we do actually becomes connected to Krishna. We don't see anything other than Krishna connection, which is very beautiful. It is specifically mentioned here, Bhagavatas Charanara. One has to think of the lotus feet of the Lord. The Mayavadis imagine that one can think of the lotus feet of Lord Shiva or Lord Brahma or the goddess of Durga to achieve liberation. But this is not so. Bhagavata is specifically mentioned. Bhagavata means of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu, and no one else. Another significant phrase in this verse is Shiva Shivo Bhut. By his constitutional position, Lord Shiva is always great and auspicious, but since he has accepted on his head the Ganges water which emanated from the lotus feet of the Lord, he has become even more auspicious and important. The stress is on the lotus feet of the Lord. A relationship with the lotus feet of the Lord can even enhance the importance of Lord Shiva, what to speak of other ordinary living entities. Such a wonderful purport, and Prabhupada is concluding with this beautiful hope-giving statement as we're talking about. Even Lord Shiva, who is the topmost of demigods and topmost of devotees, is actually becoming more important and more blessed and more auspicious. So what to speak of other ordinary living entities when we don't have any auspiciousness or any power in our lives? It's such a beautiful benediction for us to be able to connect with the Lord and then become auspicious and become glorious as a servant and as a follower and as a person carrying that Lord's lotus feet on their head. So we'll just read the verse and then concluding. Yechaucha nishratit sarit pravarodakena तीर्थेन मूर्ध्यधिकृतेन शिवः शिवो भूत् ध्यातुर्मनश्शमलशैलनिसृष्टवज्रं ध्यायेत् चिरं भगवतश्चरणारविन्दम्. The blessed Lord Shiva becomes all the more blessed by bearing on his head the holy waters of the Ganges, which has its source in the water that washed the Lord's lotus feet. So we discussed for this point, by bearing the Lord's lotus feet, or it practically means for us bearing the instructions of the Lord and his pure devotees on our head as our life and soul. That's when we can become glorious and auspicious, and actually can become very nourished and fulfilled in our own hearts. The Lord's feet act like thunderbolts hurled to shatter the mountain of sin stored in the mind of the meditating devotee. So here we are seeing how the Lord and Lord's lotus feet can actually help us, which we cannot do on our own. This mountain of sin and the material desires and tendencies that we have carried with us for lifetimes, so many millions of lifetimes, and which are all stored in the mind, which may be obstructing us to completely, in a very deeply absorbing way, connecting to the holy name and connecting to Krishna and to his devotees. Lord's lotus feet can actually help to shatter away all that mountain, so that we can become purified, and from that purified state can really able to chant the holy name and serve. One should therefore meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord for a long time. So this long time we have heard for the Dhyana Yogi, they need to, because that's the only aspect they're using to connect to the Lord, it takes really long time. And in one sense, it can take a really long time for the devotees also, if we don't put this aspect of meditation and doing things in a mindful, putting our hearts. But when we do that, when we connect to the Lord and when we connect to the devotees through their mercy, it can actually becomes that, brings that transformation in a much shorter way, in few verses actually. I think 3:25-25, Kapila Muni says that Satam Prasangan verse, Ashu Api, like immediately, like in a very quick time, Shraddha Ratir Bhaktir Anukramishati, like it's just so beautiful. It doesn't have to take really long time, because whenever I see this really long time, I'm like, geez, it takes really long time, and I don't know if I can really have my focus for all this long time. But when we are able to capture and be present and be eager to receive that mercy of Krishna and the devotees, it doesn't really have to take that long time. So with that, I'll stop the discussion and see if any discussions or reflections, sharing. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Kindly forgive me for the lack of communication.
No problem, Mataji. Thank you for doing this class.
We'll be happy to connect to this beautiful verse and to Prabhupada and Bhagavatam. Thank you.
A few things are going on, and I mean, when Prabhupada says devotees, right? I mean, he's talking about from the practicing devotee till the pure devotee, right? It's all levels, but a lot of times actually, because in our stage, practicing stage, we are not there, right? And then we are still committing the sins, or to a good extent, right? But then the mountains of sin that is getting burned by meditating. I know we are doing some meditation, maybe not completely. I was just thinking, I mean, is it Prabhupada is talking about in some cases very pure devotees and some cases, I know, I mean, even at a practicing sadhana bhakti stage, the all these sins that will burn, right? So I was just thinking about Mataji because still we are going through a lot of challenges, are still committing these sins.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we are adding. Krishna is trying to,
yeah,
holy name is trying to destroy, and we keep adding. I mean, sometimes, if we think of it, it's just kind of crazy. I'm like, geez, Amrita-keli, can you give a break to Krishna and Maharaj? Like, how much more you want them to work for you? But on the other hand, I mean, this verse is really hope-giving, Prabhu, in sense that we are totally dependent on Krishna. In one sense, that doesn't mean that we don't take our own, part. We don't play our own part. Like we do play our own part. Like, yesterday that Prabhu's class about instrument, very beautiful, very wonderful description, Gauranga Darshan Prabhu's class. If Arjuna has a choice to say yes or no when Krishna says, become my instrument. But still, he may not be able to, there are instances we know he wasn't able to do on his own, like Bhishma Dev's episode or like few other episodes. Then Krishna really intervened in a very explicit way. So in our lives, we can take up, like, Krishna, I really want to connect you. I really want to commit this. And then, at least in a grosser way, I don't want to commit this. And on subtler ways also, we can take up one thing and we can try to work on that. As Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, it would take like 5 or 10 years. I forgot the time frame. If you just take one anartha and act on that. But what's beautiful is when we take that one little thing and try to work on in a very sincere way, Krishna sees that sincerity. And then he pours that mercy. I mean, you know all this, Prabhu, but I'm just talking out loud for my own benefit. When Krishna is pleased with the tiny bit of sincerity in our hearts and he showers his mercy, that's when we are really able to, stop committing sins or doing something favorable in a real sense. Until that point of time, we may be trying to do things on a superficial, external ways, but internally, things are still there, the thoughts and desires and whatnot. But I'm sure you would have had this experience for some of the things. It's almost that magical transformation that you just don't feel like doing the same things what you were having so much difficulty on that aspect earlier. As again yesterday Prabhu was saying, offering that genuine heartfelt prayer, Krishna, look at me, 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, or 50 years, whatever. I have this desire to become genuine and become pure and serve you, but look at me, I'm infested with all these things. How much ever I'm trying on my own, I'm just not able to. Please, you lift me up. You give me your lotus feet and shatter this, that beautiful prayers where nourishing a prayer with your sharp nails, you tear away all these material desires from my heart, because that's really the only hope in one sense. I don't know, Prabhu, if it's really touching to what you're saying. Yeah, that's something I've been thinking. Yeah.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Okay, we can stop here. Thank you so much again. You have a wonderful day. वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमः। श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय। श्रील